I was listening to the story about, it was a story of a family in Washington, and the little boy called the Bigfoot the Cowboy Man. And he had, apparently it had made an effort to steal this kid. And it hit me. My children were in that playpen behind me with nothing but a mosquito net over them. It could have crept up behind me and taken both of my children, and I wouldn't have known.
Father just got like a Mustang or something from Wyoming, okay? He had it out in the corral because he couldn't put it in the barn in the stalls with the other horses. It would kick and made all the other horses nervous. Had a Seminole Indian working the horse trying to break it every day. So they had it out in the corral. This skunk ape snuck up behind this horse and grabbed it on its hindquarters. This particular horse kicks out, jumps over the corral, runs into the pasture, to get away. At this point, the rancher's out there just blasted away with the dirty. Skunk ape runs into the swamp.
I went up there one day after that, or 2 days after that. I went up there and sat in the silence up there, and I'm telling you, man, it was free. It was crazy. There was a crazy vibe up there still. I did what I could to kind of get things under control, but I told her, I said, you need to get off this property. I feel like no matter how strong you are, it's almost like standing in the ocean. You can't stand still without moving your feet. You're going to get knocked over eventually, no matter how strong, whatever. You can't withstand a barrage of weird spiritual energy.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Paranormal Odyssey. I am your host, Wayne, joined, as always, by my partner in crime, Miss Tiffany. What's up, ma'am?
Oh, not too much. Just hanging out. Being lazy on a Saturday. Yeah.
Just chilling in Virginia.
Just chilling in Virginia. Hashtag Virginia.
Getting run over tonight by all these Virginians.
I know. It's the greatest thing.
You got a couple guys backstage that are also in Virginia.
That's right, because we rock.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, of course.
All right.
You should have already known. That's where I came from.
You tell me enough.
I'm just kidding. Holy cow.
All right, everybody out there, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us on this Saturday evening. We love y'all. Anything interesting happening in your neck of the woods, ma'am?
Not too much. I got my hair.
You got your hair?
My hair. Yeah. Yeah. I ordered it and it came in.
Oh, there you go. Love the hair, Tiffany.
Yeah. See, we were talking about this in our members only last night. And Rist was like, where's the curls? Dude, I was tired after dinner. I just took my hair off and went
hair off. What are you saying right now?
This is not my hair.
What?
It's not my hair.
Shut up. How have I known you all this time and I didn't know that you wear a weave?
I just got it the other day. So like the original hair that I've had on my head for 2 years that I've been working with you is my real hair. However, my real hair would never curl like this. So I had to improvise and I had to purchase it.
How long is your regular hair?
It's like, I don't know, it's down to here.
Why you gotta add stuff to it? Just be you.
Cause it's luxurious and curly and I like it. And it's a girl thing.
Can I add some?
Yeah, I mean, hey, I got this from TikTok, $6, but dude, they sell them on Amazon too.
All right, let's get my beard some work.
I couldn't see you coming out here with some hair. That's funny.
All right, guys, we are professional. This is not a hair show. We're here to talk about Bigfoot. Like I said, we got a couple guys backstage. I was on their show, I guess, a couple weeks ago now. Sasquatch Watch Radio. Had an awesome time over there. Those guys wrote me a song.
Really?
Yeah. Did you not hear the song?
No.
You dummy. You weren't even in there then.
I was in there. I wasn't like in there at the beginning, but I was in there.
Well, it was halfway through. So you're admitting that you don't watch the shows, Tiffany. It's not a good look.
Oh my gosh. I just virtually stick my foot up your ass.
Well, sad to say, we didn't write them a song. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was really cool. I don't know if they got. They're supposed to send it to Chris, and she was going to put it on the website. I don't know if that's happened yet. I haven't been over to check, but yeah, we'll get to them here in just a second. But we have bills to pay, as always. So if you're ready, ma'am, let's do that.
All right.
Guys, if you're new to the show tonight, we are so happy to have you. We appreciate it. Before you leave, please take a second, hit that subscribe button. Help Miss Tiffany and I continue to grow the show.
And if you would like to be on with Wayne and myself, you can reach out to both of us, Wayne at paranormalworldproductions.com or me, Tiffany at paranormalworldproductions.com. And if I'm not mistaken, we only have 2 dates left open for March. So if you want to get your encounters in March, please email us.
Nice. Paranormalworldproductions.com is our website. You can head over there and check out all of the shows under the studio's umbrella, pick you up some merch, sign up for the weekly Bigfoot newsletter, all kinds of stuff that you can do over there. But you got to head to paranormalworldproductions.com to do any of it.
And if you have any questions for tonight's guest, which I know you will, you guys are stellar with your question asking. I just ask that you put them in all capital letters. I snatch them up during the show. We highlight them. And then at the end of the show, we do a rapid fire Q&A. So, but if you put them in all capital letters, I will be more apt to see them.
I want to ask everybody to head over to manimalresearch.org. That is the website for the organization that I founded in 2019. Miss Chris Blaylock handles that. She built the website. She's our administrator, does all of that cool stuff. If you're having anything going on in your property that you would like to have checked out, we would love for you to consider us to do that. Hit the contact button, send us an email, and let us know if you would like to become a member of Manimal Research and get out and do some of the investigations that we do. We got one coming up in 2 weeks. I'm so excited. We got our LBL trip coming up in exactly 2 weeks right now. So it's going to be awesome. We do a few of them a year, and then we have our big Squatch out in September. If you'd like to become a member of Manimal Research, you can get the information there as well. We would love to talk to you about that. But again, that's manimalresearch.org.
And if you would like to become a member of our YouTube channel, we would greatly appreciate it. It's only $1.99. We don't see the need to do $2.99 tiers, $5.99 tiers, $12.90. Some people have their channels
$30 tiers. I mean,
why?
I don't know.
$1.99, guys. Everything is expensive. We are not expensive. We are super fun to hang out with. And we had a members only last night, and we got to have Chris and her husband, Gary, aka Goonie Goo Goo, come on, and they watched spooky videos with us, and they were on screen with us. And I mean, it's just a fun time. And you have the Discord that you can go on to. Like I said, our member only lives. I mean, you get extra content. You're first to be notified of different things. And it's only $1.99. So we do ask that you take that into consideration. We would greatly appreciate that. It helps us not only have new members to our family, but things aren't free. So the $1.99 goes to help pay for the cost of StreamYard and all the equipment and all the programs. And I mean, it's just $2. It's just $2. And you get so much for that $2.
Yeah, last night was a lot of fun, wasn't it?
It was so much fun.
Yeah, we're going to have to do that more often. Had Chris and Gary on the whole episode with us watching just spooky videos. It was a lot of fun. We do that from time to time. We hadn't done it in a while, but we're going to do more of that. Yep. Best freaking $1.99 ever spent, Mr. Alex Schmidt says, with that giant dog in his lap.
Yes. And it really is. I mean, you can't beat it. You can't get into the movies for $1.99. You can't get into, buy even a drink at a club or bar. I don't know. I don't drink. So, but
you can't do anything for $2. You can't get a Coke for $2, y'all.
No.
but you could come hang out with us
Absolutely.
and be stupid for an hour and a half.
Yeah, and it's so much fun.
All right, guys. Lastly, before we get to our guests, if you notice down at the bottom, our Cash App and Venmo is there. If you would like to help us out in that way, it is greatly appreciated. You guys used to hit us with super stickers all the time, and that was awesome. But YouTube, they like to take their fees. It's understandable. I mean, YouTube, it's a business. They make their money as well. But my opinion, maybe they could take a little less, but they don't. We need it more than they do. So if you can help us out with Cash App and Venmo, that comes straight to us, and there aren't near the fees that are involved with the whole YouTube thing. So if you guys could help us out that way, we would greatly appreciate it. As Tiffany said, nothing's free. I just paid the StreamYard bill. I pay $50 a month for just to be able to put these shows on for you guys. So,
and that's not including like editing software and
I have editing software. The thumbnails, I pay for that to be able to do those for you guys. The music, all of that stuff. Nothing is free. We pay for everything around here. So that's what that does, is helps us out to offset that expense. And we appreciate it if you can. If you can't, we love you anyway.
Yeah, we're just glad you're here. And you can hit that subscribe button and that'll help us just as much.
Absolutely. It certainly does. And what helps us out even more is sharing the show.
Yeah, get the word out. There's people I've talked to, they didn't even know we existed. And by word of mouth and me talking about the show, because I just love it so much, they have subscribed and now they watch every time we're on. So just word of mouth really helps, with any podcast, not just ours, to get the word.
Yeah, Mr. Troy just hit us with $25. Thank you so much.
Oh,
buddy.
thank you.
Troy, you are the man. Thank you, sir. All right. As we said, got a couple of Virginians backstage waiting to go. I was not familiar with these guys until Mr. Billy reached out and invited me to come on their show a couple weeks ago. And several of our regulars that I see in the chat tonight came over and watched us while we hung out over there. It was the Sasquatch Watch Radio. Mr. Billy's been doing that for a long time. He took about an 8-year break. And guys, he has talked to some heavy hitters in the Bigfoot community. I was on there because he took all of his older stuff and put it on YouTube and like re-released it to his new YouTube channel. He's had Dr. Meldrum on. He's had Cliff Brackman on. Several people that you have heard of. He's had on the show to talk. So he is not new at this. Been doing it for a long time. And Mr. Gary, his partner backstage, asked me some questions that I've never been asked or haven't been asked in a long time on that episode. And I found that really refreshing, that it was an episode where we didn't talk about the normal stuff. I got to talk about some different things. So it was really, really cool. I had a great time with those guys over there. So if you're ready, ma'am, we're going to bring them out.
Absolutely. Sorry.
All right. Did that get you mid-swaller?
Yes.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
All right, everybody, please help me welcome Mr. Billy and Mr. Gary to the show. What's up, fellas?
Hi.
Good.
How y'all doing tonight?
Doing good.
Oh, that's good to hear people to talk my accent like Swaller.
Yeah.
And the window and the potato.
That's right. How about
Mater?
We call them taters.
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 Yeah. All right. As I said, God, I'm surrounded by Virginians tonight. All three of y'all are from the state of Virginia. So very, very happy to have you guys. Let's just start. Well, we're going to go from left to right. Right now, that would be my left, right. That would be Gary. And then Billy. Guys, tell us how you got your start. What interests you in Bigfoot? When did it happen? Was it an encounter? Just what happened and when? Gary, you first.
I don't know. I was probably 12 years old. Like the first time I ever saw like the Boggy Creek movie. And when that booger run his arm through the window and tried to grab them people, it scared the bejesus out of me. So I kind of started studying, I'd find little books and read little books and, watch stuff. And then Leonard Nimoy with In Search Of was a huge influence because, I'm a child of the 70s and 80s. I was born in 69. I grew up in the 70s and 80s. And In Search Of was like the premium weirdness show.
Yeah.
And the first time I saw the Patterson Gimlin film, I told my dad, I said, that's real. And he's like, oh, it's a bunch of junk. That stuff ain't real. And then I had a sighting in about 2006. And when you have a sighting, Sasquatch becomes more like methamphetamine. You are hooked, Jack. Once you see it, you're done.
And
I've
never had someone compare Sasquatch to meth.
Yeah, you're hooked, Jack. You can't put it down. But everybody knows all about the old tweakers. We're plumb full of them back here. But I joined Billy's group, and I done some expeditions with Billy. We had a lot of cool stuff happen, a lot of stuff I can't explain. And when I first got into it, like for real got into it with the group, I joined Sasquatch Watch of Virginia. That was Billy's group, and I had some really great influences. There was a lot of great people in that group. Billy was a big influence on me. He taught me a lot, and I learned a lot.
Awesome. All right, Mr. Billy, same question to you, buddy.
Yeah, me and Gary were born in the same year, so pretty much the same story. I do remember seeing The Legend of Boggy Creek at a drive-in theater, and pretty sure that I was my mom had an old Impala. I think we drove in the Impala, and I sat out on the hood and watched it. But that's really where I gotten interested in it. And of course, in school, as we all know, our libraries and the schools were pretty limited on what you could find on something like that. I think I found one book maybe in school. And I remember that one book, I would just look at it over and over and over. So I always had an interest in it while I was young, but it wasn't until 2004 that I did anything about it. So in 2004, unbeknownst to me at the time, two of my youngest sons had started cruising the Bigfoot forums. And they started learning about, people, had groups looking for these things. So they came and told me, said, Dad, have you ever heard of this? I was like, oh, yeah, I've heard of it. They were like, what do you think? I said, oh, I think it's out there. So in 2004, I went ahead and started Sasquatch Watch. We had our own forum for a while, and then eventually we went to a website. Then we started a group. I became a member of several of the groups, particularly on the East Coast. People may have heard of some of them. One of them is called NESRA, which was the Northeast Sasquatch Researchers Association. I was in the ABS, which is the American Bigfoot Society. If anybody remembers William Drangenis with the VBRO, Virginia Bigfoot Research Organization. He passed away a few years back, but he was my mentor as I was getting started, because this was the man that had a camper, and that thing was equipped with a telescopic thermal imager that came out of the top of it. He could sit in that camper and do a 360-degree view, whether he's going down the road or whatever. And he was a certified flare operator. So he was a guy he was a, what do you call it? A private contractor for the CIA and the FBI. So he developed surveillance equipment. So I was like, oh, I need to hang with this guy. And taught me everything I know about, flare thermal imaging and night vision. And trail cameras. He was the first guy that I heard talking about how he believes Bigfoot can either hear or see it. He tested some of the good trail cameras and actually learned that they do put off an ultrasonic sound right before they trigger. And he believes that they may be able to hear them, which is why we may not be getting anything on trail camera. So, yeah, it's been an interesting journey. I've traveled all over the U.S., down to eastern Texas and Washington State, Oregon. So it's been a fun run.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it. Before we get to our next question real quick, I just want to say a special thank you to Jonathan Pulley, just donated $50, and Scott Trent just donated $100. Thank you guys so much. Y'all are awesome. We really, really appreciate that. It helps out a lot. But yeah, it's really cool, y'all. Yeah, y'all have been busy. Billy, I was talking a little bit before we came on. You have interviewed some heavy hitters along the way. Who, in your opinion, who was, I mean, I don't know if you want to answer this or not, because I know they were all interesting in their own way, but who were you the most excited about? I don't want to say who was the best one, but who were you personally most excited to get a chance to talk to?
Probably the first time I met with Dr. Meldrum. I mean, he's in, as everybody knows, he's the mainstream guy in all the documentaries. And I first met him. It was pretty good, interesting sit down. I remember having him examine a casted print that I had done, and he looked at it, and of course, it's inconclusive.
Don't that suck?
Yeah, but again, he's interesting to be around. And I have a lot of people to thank for really helping me to get to some of these people that I've talked to. I'm sure everybody knows Eric Altman in Pennsylvania, Bigfoot Society. Him and I hooked up early on, and I did all East Coast conferences. So I met a lot of them through there, and then of course I hung out with. Well, I don't know. Should I admit this, Gary? That I hung out with Bruce Harrington? I don't know. I don't know. I guess it'll be safe. So Bruce Harrington and I, we used to do a lot of work on a conference that we used to do up high called Preacher Weekend, and met a lot of people through that. And that's where I had the most fun with Dr. Meldrum. There's a nice little side story to that where we all hung out at a Japanese steakhouse. I'm just going to go ahead and tell the story because it's funny. So, if some may or may not know, now he call and say something for me talking about this story. So we'll see. But we took him out to a Japanese steakhouse. We were doing an event at Cabela's up in Wheeling, West Virginia. We went to this Japanese steakhouse right across the street. And for those who may or may not know, Dr. Meldrum is a Mormon. So we go to the steakhouse. Well, this one, I've been to Japanese steakhouses. This one's a little different. They're a little more wild. Had some wild music going, loud music, lights. It was all set almost like a bar scene. So we're sitting there, and we're getting all of our stuff cooked in front of us. And the guy puts on his show, where they're flipping the spatulas and stuff. And well, this one was a little different. This one, he was flipping they looked like ketchup and mustard containers, the squeeze bottles. So he was flipping those, and then he would squirt it in, tell you to open your mouth, and he'd squirt it from a distance, right? So we're looking over there, and it was like, it's your turn, Jeff. Jeff opens up his mouth, and the guy's squirting one that looks like mustard. And I see Jeff over going, I don't think that was water. we're busting up laughing, falling out of the chairs.
Oh God.
I said, well, I guess I'm gonna have to tell your fellows over there in your church that you drinking some alcohol.
What was it they squirted?
The best we could tell, it had some kind of bourbon in it.
I was going to say vodka because that's usually what they squirt and make all the big fire with and stuff.
Right. But the funny part was he said, the funny thing is he said, it was pretty good though. I think I want some more.
That's what, yeah, vodka makes sense.
You get him away from the Bigfoot scene, and he does like to have fun.
I just want to hop in there for a second, Wayne.
Yeah.
I attend an event in Townsend, Tennessee. Every year. We've been there, I think, 3 or 4 years in a row, me and my wife. I enjoy it, and I kind of drag her along for the ride. But it's called the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Festival, and they have a lot of really big-name guests. Meldrum's been there. Gosh, I'm trying to think who all has been there. Ron Moorhead's usually there. R. Scott Nelson. Billy, you'll have to help me. The hat dude with the leather hat.
Oh,
not Lyle Blackburn, but
not Lyle Blackburn.
Ken
Gerhardt.
Yeah.
All right. So every time we go, I'll go up to their tables, to get an autograph or something like that, or buy one of their books or something. And they're like, you pretty knowledgeable about Sasquatch? And I'm like, yeah. I belong to a group in Virginia. And they said, oh, well, what group do you belong with? I said, Sasquatch Watch in Virginia. And they said, who runs that? And I said, Billy Willard. And they're like, oh, man, I know Billy. He's a great guy. Billy's a pretty humble dude. He won't admit to it, but like everybody in the Bigfoot world knows Billy. Every one of them. Every time I go there, that's the first thing they say, yeah, I know Billy. He's a great dude, man. So Billy's being a little bit humble. He's been around.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We, like you said, Gary, we don't have one in the barn.
Yeah, that's true.
Unfortunately. Not that anyone's admitting anyway. Yeah, that's so cool. And Gary, I hope to get up to that one because I've heard nothing but awesome things about that festival in Townsend. We go to the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Conference every year, and you guys stay tuned. I've got an announcement coming up about that one.
That's the one up in Gatlinburg, isn't it, Wayne?
Yes, at the conference center in Gatlinburg. We've been going, Brian and I, this is going to be our 3rd year going together. Tiffany and I and Mr. Troy in the chat, we all rented a big cabin last year and hung out together and went to the conference. It was awesome. We're doing the same thing this year. Chris Blaylock and her husband Gary have rented an even bigger cabin. It's like 6 bedrooms. And there's going to be like 14 or 15 of us staying in this cabin this year. So we go up there and do that each year. But I need to check out that Townsend one. When is that, Gary? Do you know?
It's usually like the first part of May. I think it's like May the 3rd or the 4th this year.
Okay. I'm going to look into it. Maybe I'll see you up there.
It's a fun little event. It's not like, a conference.
Did I hear something like there's like 50 to 60,000 people that come to this thing?
The first year that me and my wife, we missed the very first year that they had it. And we went the second year. And the Townsend Fire Department was responsible for parking vehicles, and all the money that they got for parking went to the Townsend Fire Department, which I was really cool with that because I have 2 sons that are firemen.
Awesome.
And I think there was like, I don't remember if it was 2,500 or 3,500 cars the second year that they had the event. So, yeah, it's pretty neat. There's a lot of people there. Last year it rained really hard. It was kind of a mud ball. Kind of reminds you of the old Woodstock, from the videos and stuff. But it was really, it's a lot of fun. There's all kinds of vendors. It's got Bigfoot related stuff that they sell. They've got
Naoma Ben says it's May 3rd. Mm-hmm. And Scott Trent's asking the one in Gatlinburg is in July. Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna have to go up there and check that one out. I'm like 2 hours from Gatlinburg, and I've talked about like this special, like Gatlinburg holds a special place in my heart. You know, it was the first place my family ever went on vacation as a family vacation when I was little. So I've got that memory, and I go 2 to 3 times a year. I've already been once this year, and it was just a few weeks ago for my granddaughter's birthday. I love it up there. I absolutely love it. Townsend's a cool little town too, so I definitely want to check that out. But getting back to the actual like interactions and stuff with Bigfoot, Gary, you had mentioned that you had a sighting, and I think you said 2006, right?
Yes, sir.
You want to tell us about that?
Well, I got to give a little information first. I live in a small coal town here in Southwest Virginia. We're real close to the Kentucky border. We're close to Kentucky. We're close to West Virginia, and we're close to Tennessee. I'm a disabled veteran. I'm a Marine veteran, so I have to go to Johnson City, Tennessee, to the VA hospital. So, we're pretty close to all three of those states. Well, the place where my sighting happened, it's now called Big Smith Ridge, but when we was growing up, nobody called it Big Smith Ridge. It was called Welfare Ridge. Nobody up there worked. It was called Welfare Ridge. So at the time that it happened, I worked for the Virginia Department of Corrections, and I went up there to pick up a guy that I worked with. We were both supervisors at the time, and I was picking him up to take him to work. Well, at the time, there was probably 3 people up there that worked, and all 3 of us worked for the prison. So anyway, I picked him up. We was coming off the ridge, and it was just probably 4:30 in the morning. And as we was coming off the ridge, I actually had to lock the brakes up to keep from hitting this thing. It stepped straight out in front of my Jeep. I had a little Jeep Wrangler, a Jeep Wrangler Rubicon, 2003 model. And this thing was probably 3.5 feet taller than the top of my Jeep. So it was probably right at 8.5 feet. It walked across the road. It turned and looked at us as it was walking. It was covered head to toe in like a cinnamon orangey colored hair. Under the armpit area, like from its elbow down towards its armpit, and past its armpit some, the hair was rolled up into like dreadlocks. And the only thing I could think of, it was like from movement, where the arms moved. Oh, yeah. But it was huge. Absolutely. It was huge. That's the biggest animal I've ever seen. And it walked across the road. It looked at us, and the look on its face wasn't like it was surprised. We wasn't supposed to be there. Like I said, Welfare Ridge, we wasn't supposed to be there. And it walked across the road, and the stride was really, I got to steal this from somebody else I heard on another podcast. It was almost like it skied across the road. It was just really smooth. And it walked across the road and went over the hill, and I didn't say anything. I was just, like I said, I was probably 10 or 12 years old the first time I saw Boggy Creek, and I've always thought that they were real, and now all of a sudden this thing just walked across the road in front of me. And I was probably 3 feet from it in my Jeep, and it just walked across the road, and it got across the road, and I kind of sat there just for a second, and we pulled out, started going down the road a little bit more. Then I hear this real loud click noise. And I turn around and look, and the guy that I had in the Jeep with me had locked the door, and he was holding on to the handle with both hands.
So he saw it too.
Yeah. And I said, dude, did you see that? He said, I didn't see nothing. I said, did you see that? He said, I saw something. I don't know what it is. I said, dude, did you see that? I said, if you don't say something, I'm going to stop this Jeep. He said, I seen something. I don't know what it is. I don't want to talk about it. And he doesn't talk about it to this day. And that's been almost 20 years ago.
God, why is that, man?
Why
do people lock up like that? I don't get it.
It's got to be a fear thing, because you're brought up to believe a certain narrative. Okay, Bigfoot are not in that narrative. So you're looking at this, it's not supposed to exist. And there it is in front of your face.
I think there's two responses when you actually see one, and especially like an up close visual. You know, like I said, it was walked right at the end of my hood. That was probably 3 feet from it. And there's two responses that people have, I think, when they see something like this. Number one, they're in awe, super excited. That was me. You know, like I said, I was hooked. That was it. I know they're real. I saw this. I know, you know, boom, this was it. And then the other response is just a complete and total meltdown. And I think that's what the other guy I had with me did. It's hard to wrap your head around it. You know, people say, oh, well, if you saw it, why didn't you take a picture of it?
Bullshit.
Dude, I couldn't. I mean, I was just so enthralled.
Yeah, first of all, you're driving a Jeep down the road. You don't have time to grab out your damn camera. I mean, that's just stupid. Come on, guys.
I mean, I was, even if I had it in my hand, I don't think I could have done it.
Yeah.
I was just
that's like when Zach was in the backyard, when he saw his over the fence. I mean, he had his phone on his belt.
You don't think about it.
You're not thinking about that. You're like, holy shit, what did I just see?
Yeah, and I mean, you got a lot of people that will criticize you. Oh, well, you could have done this and you could have done that. Yeah, I probably could have. It never crossed my mind. I was too busy watching, you know, the Incredible Hulk with hair walk across the road.
Yeah, and I've told the story so many times. I hadn't told it in a long time. It's the quick version. I'm on expedition. Several of my team members are there with me. 2 of our members go on a night hike. Stay back with this 13-year-old boy, the grandson of one of our members, and we're back at camp. And we are there with thousands of dollars of equipment. We're there for one reason: to find Bigfoot, to gather evidence, to do whatever we can to get evidence. This ungodly sound broke loose. Sounded like a howl, bark, laugh kind of thing. I had never heard it. Scared the absolute hell out of me. The one thing I pulled out was my 45 off my hip. Self-preservation is what came to mind. I had cameras. I had recorders. I had thermal vision. I had parabolic mic, all that stuff. And the one thing I grabbed during the whole 2-minute thing was my pistol. So the people that say, why didn't you pull a camera? Y'all need to just stop. Yeah, unless you've been in that position. And a roadside crossing sighting is not the time to be pulling out a camera, you know, unless you've got a dash cam or something like that. In 2006, I don't think there was a whole lot of those around. But one thing you said, Gary, that kind of stood out to me, and I've never heard before, but makes so much sense, was like the under the arm area with that looked matted like dreadlocks, kind of. I've never heard that.
The only thing I can think of, Wayne, is just from the movement where its arm was moving, and it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was incredible. I'm a big firearms guy. I have a couple of 1911s. I have one in 45. I have one in 10 millimeter. I actually killed a hog with my 10 millimeter this year.
Wow.
But anyway, you know, I honestly don't know. I carry a firearm in the woods, and it's not necessarily for Bigfoot. There are worse things in the woods than Bigfoot.
You're right.
You never know when you're going to come across, you know, a cookhouse or something. And, you know, I kind of made the little joke about meth earlier, but I mean, it's a real problem all throughout, you know, Appalachia in a whole. So, yeah, I go well heeled when I go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's recommended in my opinion. Don't go out there unarmed, and it's not for Bigfoot. I don't carry a gun because I'm scared of Bigfoot. I'm scared of the damn tweakers. I'm more scared of humans than I am mythical creatures that we don't even know for sure exist.
No, I do.
Yeah, and I've had my sighting too. But you know, for the sake of science that won't recognize it, I just, you know, it's not classified yet. But
I'm not trying to hog up the show or anything, But one of my thoughts on it is the reason that we have a hard time getting it recognized by science is not for lack of evidence. It's not for lack of sightings or anything like that. I think it's more that science don't want to recognize it because there's a lot of stigma with it. With, things like people call the woo or whatever. I'm 100% that it is a living, breathing animal. It's not interdimensional or extraterrestrial. It's not spiritual. It's an animal. And, when you stick to just the scientific part of it, you get heat a lot from people that are more into the paranormal side of it.
Yeah.
And, I don't see everything that I've seen on expeditions and things like that is signs of a living, breathing animal. I tend to think that it's either a hominid or a hominin.
Mm-hmm.
It's either one of the great ape species, or it might be, some type of relic human species. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like Billy says, I say it all the time. Nobody has one down in the barn that we go down and check on every day to see what it's doing. So.
Or do they?
Well, the government probably knows.
Now, before we get to Billy, because I want to ask him, pretty much a lot of the same things, but I want to, while we're on this roadside crossing thing, I want to get both of your opinions, because it's something that we've talked about on this show many, many times, and Brian and I have talked about over on that Bigfoot podcast. The most common report of a Bigfoot sighting is these roadside crossings. People are in their cars and they see these things crossing the road. Why? I mean, it makes no sense. These things have stayed hidden for centuries. And you want to tell me all of a sudden they hear a car coming and they go stupid? They just say, oh shit, what is this? Let me walk out in front of it and show myself. I'm hidden 99% of the time, but a car's coming, so let me show myself. No, there's something to it. Why is it happening? Do y'all have an opinion on that?
I kind of got a couple different theories. Number one, I think it's a source of food. There's roadkill. I don't care what road you're on. There's roadkill, whether it's deer or raccoons or whatever. There's some type of roadkill.
Yeah, but then they could still wait till the car goes by.
Well, and then two, I kind of, like I said, fall back into the animal thing too. How many deer jump out in front of your car? So I think it's more in the nature that they're not trying to be seen. It's like, oh, somebody's coming, let me go. And, they don't, I don't think they realize that a vehicle's going 55, 60, 70 miles an hour or whatever, and how fast it will be there.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. It's something we got to keep in mind. Bigfoot don't have cars that I know of, and a car can be up on you 55, 60 miles an hour in no time. So maybe they just underestimate it. I don't know.
My other thought is that roadways are not just highways for people. When you think about a roadway, even like an interstate, it's really cleaned and cleared on both sides. It's easy access. You can see where you're going, things like that. And it's an easy path to get through. Animals will use like logging roads. They'll use, gas wheel roads and things like that. All animals will use them because it's the easiest path of travel.
All right. Billy, before we get on to the next question to you, do you have any thoughts on the roadside crossings?
We've had some funny discussions about this. Again, whether we're dealing with an ape species or some type of an unknown human, whatever. We've joked around about, what if it's like a game? See how close you can get, Run out and see if you can get, pass up that vehicle before it gets there. Who knows? Maybe they play games like crazy stuff that we do.
It seems almost intentional. to me. Like they know what they're doing. You know?
Yeah, I mean, and again, we don't know because we don't know what we're dealing with.
Exactly. You're exactly right, Billy. Now let's talk about, Gary got to talk about his first sighting. Billy, have you had a sighting?
I am not. I've always come out and said that I won't call what I've seen a sighting, just simply because I would almost have to have a look at it like Gary did. I've never been close to anything that I would be ready to call Bigfoot. I have had a couple incidents. One being where I was just getting done with an investigation and was actually back on the road heading home at about midnight. And I was over, if anybody knows where Quantico Marine Base is, in Prince William Forest Park, which is owned by National Park Service. I was actually traveling the road that goes between the two properties. And as I was coming around a curve, I saw the back end of something go into the woods. Well, it didn't look like a bear, because I don't think a bear walks upright when it crosses the road. So I actually called William Dranginis that within minutes of having that, and he actually drove out there, and we investigated, and he, and again, this guy, never even thought of this. So he gets this special little flashlight out. He goes, all right. And he's holding it down real close to the ground. And I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, I'm looking for webs or something's come through, right? So he's looking, and sure enough, he's finding, all these spider webs, but there's this one area right where I saw the crossing where there's nothing. It's clear. He goes, something went down through here. I mean, we spent about an hour out there looking around, knowing it was long gone. I mean, but we never found anything conclusive that we, a footprint or anything like that. Everything was, bedded down with leaves, so wasn't nothing there to find. But the other incident that I had happened in an area called, the town's called Verina, Virginia, is right outside of Richmond, Virginia, near the Richmond International Airport. There's a bunch of land there where they were getting ready to do some developing. And there was this lady who's she's like a historical archaeologist. She was out there looking at the land prior to them doing development, because it was believed that there was once, some Native American tribal activity on that land. So she was trying to find evidence of that. Well, she was there. It was late one evening. She was at the site she said it was a full moon at night, and she actually saw a creature kneel down and actually cupping water out of a creek and drinking. So she called us. We got out there the next day. And this was all when I was with Nez. And we all went out there. Well, let's see, it was 1, 2, 3. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There were 6 of us that went out. I had my 3 sons, myself, gentleman by the name of Tom Lancaster, and then the witness herself. We all met at the site, and we all kind of split up. And there was like this patch of woods that was probably 100 yards wide. On one side was a cornfield, on the other side was a soybean field. So 2 of us went up the center of the woods while we had people on each side of that patch of woods, and we were going to kind of do like a pocket, So as we're going through, I guess I'm about halfway in, and then remember the old Nextel phones? I'll tell you how long ago this was. So we all had Nextel phones. As I'm getting in there, we got them on vibrate. Mine starts vibrating, so I get on there, and it's my son Josh. I said, "What's up?" I can already tell something's wrong, because he could barely talk. And he's like, "We are looking at one right now." I said, what do you mean? He says, it's in the woods about 70 feet in. It's behind a tree, and it keeps peeking around the tree, and it's just staring at us. And it was him and his youngest brother, Tim, was standing there. And then some time went by. I said, well, just stay there. I'm going to send Tom up in your direction. And then I guess he was getting a little antsy. He was like, we're actually going to walk towards it. I said, no, don't do that. Don't do that, because we don't know what we're dealing with. So Tom starts heading up out of the woods. I stay in place, and I'm walking a little bit further as Tom, all of a sudden my phone vibrates, and he's like, it just took off. And the moment he said, it just took off, I see going from my left to right, something, and I mean moving. I mean, this thing was moving so fast. I've seen deer move. Deer can move pretty fast. This thing could outrun a deer, whatever it was. And it just took off. So one of the things I've talked about on those shows during this time, something strange happened. There's been some people that say it was infrasound. There's been a lot of different theories, but it was right at that point in time that I did something I had never done before. And all of a sudden I started feeling really ill, just out of the blue. And then I literally lay down in a fetal position on the ground. And I was disoriented. I couldn't figure out where I was. I couldn't figure out how I got where I was at. And then it took a good 5 minutes before I was able to clear my head a little bit and get back up. And then I remembered that when I came into the woods, I had the creek on the right side of me. So I knew that if I turned around and had the creek on the left side, I'd find my way out. I had to actually rationalize all that thought. That's the
Now,
first time that's ever happened to me.
You had people with you, Billy, right?
No, I was by myself at that point, because
Okay.
I had sent Tom out to go up with the boys.
Okay.
So that all happened after he had left. But it was really weird, because nothing like that's ever happened to me, never happened since. But all I can tell you is that is a really strange feeling. Like I say, I've had a lot of people tell me, infrasound can cause that. Whatever. I didn't hear anything. All I saw was something take off going down the hill.
It's really weird that we're talking about this now, because Brian and I have been talking about this a lot lately over on that Bigfoot podcast, because we've had listeners call in and voicemail and email talking about infrasound. And one of the questions that we've been asking is, I've heard a lot of people, one of them off the top of my head being my friend Lori Wade. She's big in the BFRO, does all the expeditions in Tennessee and in North Georgia. She believes she's been hit with infrasound a couple of times, but there's been other people around. So we've questioned, is infrasound something that can be localized to a certain person? I wouldn't think so. I would think if they release infrasound, it's going to hit everybody the same way. But and Brian and I are recording an episode of that Bigfoot podcast tomorrow morning. We always do on Sunday mornings. And we got an email from one of our listeners that looked into this. And it said that, it is believed that infrasound can affect people differently. Like it hits everybody the same, but people are affected differently. Due to age, health conditions, just all kind of variables. But that's something that's really interesting to me. If you got a group of 4 or 5 people, why does one person get sick and the rest of them don't? Like RPG on the first season of Expedition Bigfoot, he had to leave the show because he got sick. Why didn't anybody else?
Right. Yeah, it's interesting if you Google military experiments with infrasound. you can see that they've been experimenting with infrasound for many, many years. Anything from causing someone nausea to causing someone to just completely lose it. There's all types of testing that's been done on infrasound, but it is interesting. We do know that some animals have infrasound. We know that tigers use it right before they get their prey. We know that elephants use it over long distances. So with the deep cavity that a Sasquatch seems to have, it's probably possible.
Infrasound is one of those things that is tied to Bigfoot that I do not want to experience. Y'all can have all of that you want.
I don't want it again.
Yeah, give it to somebody else. I don't want it. There are a few things that are associated with Bigfoot activity. Gary, we'll start with you, but I'm going to ask you the same question, Billy. One of those things that goes along with Bigfoot encounters that I have not experienced is the smell. Have y'all ever smelt a Bigfoot or what you believe to be a Bigfoot? Gary, you first.
I'll just be honest. I've never experienced the smell, but I've studied it quite a bit. They say it's possibly a gland underneath the armpits that primates do it. Gorillas, chimpanzees, things like that. And certain primates, as part of a mating ritual, chimpanzees are big into it, but they will urine bath. They'll soak themselves in their own urine.
Oh, wow.
As an attractant. And I can't say I've never smelled it. But that's not to say that it doesn't exist. I think there's a real possibility that it does exist.
All right, Billy.
As for me, there's been many circumstances where I've been in the woods and I'll come on an area where you smell that sulfur, wet dog kind of smell, but I never had a sight or an encounter of any kind associated with it. So I can't say that it's not like, some of these areas, especially in Virginia, there's areas here where you have, swampy areas, and I'm sure you can get that, sulfury swamp gas odor in certain areas. So I can't say that it's related to, to a Bigfoot, but then, again.
Well, the ones in Florida, they call skunk apes. Right. And it's always a sulfury smell that people associate with it.
I think a lot of that comes
there was no odor that time I had that, that Richmond thing. I had no odor at that. So.
Okay, what, Gary?
I think the skunk ape thing comes from they get this skunk smell from what they call the skunk ape. And in parts of Florida, there are no skunks. So I think that's where it gets its name from. So if you're in an area where there are no skunks, which that's not going to happen anywhere here in Virginia. But if you're in an area like down in Florida where there are no skunks and you smell a skunk smell, something's making that smell and it's probably not a skunk.
Now, could this be a defense mechanism like a skunk uses to warn people, get the hell away from me?
I think so. We talked about the glands and stuff like that. It's more prevalent, I think, in women when women get upset. I'm talking about human women. When women get upset, they throw off a lot of hormones and stuff like that. And
is that true, Tiffany?
I done me myself.
I've never been around an upset. I've never been around an upset woman. I don't know.
Oh, you're a liar and a pothead.
Zach's been around me for 25 years, so I don't know if I have a different smell when I'm pissed or sad.
I've never noticed it, and I've been around a lot of pissed off women.
But yeah, I think it is. I think it's something like, I don't necessarily want to say it's like a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
Because when you think about it, you're talking about an 8.5 foot, giant animal that could
Yeah.
rip your arm off and beat you to death with the wet end. I don't think there's a lot of defense mechanisms with it.
You say with the wet end?
With the wet end.
Never heard that. I like it.
But, you know, anytime anybody gets upset, like I said, I was a Marine, okay? I've been in the field. I fought in the first Persian Gulf War, Operation Desert Storm and Desert Shield. You go 30 days without a bath, dude, you're humming. Okay? You are humming.
I mean, I notice a difference. If I go a day without one, I know that I can smell myself. I can imagine 30 days.
Yeah. You go 30 days without, you know, I've actually had clothes that dry rotted off of me. So,
yeah, I mean, that makes perfect sense. And I mean, if you want to get like super gross, which, you know, I mean, let's do it. I don't care. All that hair, you know, they got hair around the beehole. They got to poop. You know, stuff's getting caught in there, dingleberries. And like urine, like you said, that smell has to stick around. So, I mean, if that was the case, though, wouldn't you smell that every single time one was around?
I don't think so, not necessarily. Because, like, I mean, I'm a hunter. And once you've been out in the woods for a while, and I don't know if you hunt, Wayne, or not, but once you've been out in the woods for a while, you'll notice that your senses enhance. You can hear better, you can see better, you can smell better, because you're kind of reverting back to a more primitive version of yourself.
Yeah.
You know, when you think about it, my wife's got 300 candle burners in this house. You know, you can walk in and it may smell anywhere from apple pie to, I don't know what that other thing that she burns is. You know, you never know what you're going to walk into. But I think, you know, a lot of it is as humans in the environment that we choose to live in, you kind of skip some of that. Have you ever noticed that food tastes better when you're outside?
Why is that? A bologna sandwich when you're camping or fishing is so much better than a bologna sandwich at home.
Yeah. And if you'll notice too, like when you're camping, you can smell somebody cooking something better.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, you're out in the environment. You don't have as many chemicals or other scents or anything like that. You know, you're not surrounded by people with 3 gallons of cologne on, or, you know, you're more open to it.
Okay. Let's shift gears a little bit to go to another attribute, I guess, that is associated with Sasquatch behavior, and that would be the having shit thrown at you. No, I mean not literal shit, but like rocks, acorns, pine cones, sticks, just things thrown at you. Have you guys experienced that? And we'll start with Billy on this one.
Well, I know Gary's had that thrown at him, but not by Bigfoot. But we were up in, I believe it's called Derry, Pennsylvania. It was me, Sean Forker, fellow by the name of Phil. I can't remember. There was a couple other guys. We were walking alongside a railroad track. We had woods to our left, the railroad was to our right. As we're walking back, sit down and listen for a little while. Something started tossing rocks out of the woods right in front of us. One of them landed really close to Sean, almost hit him. And we're not talking about small rocks. They were, the rocks that you see by the railroad. You got a little bit of size to them. But yeah, there was something that was throwing rocks from the woods as we were walking in. That's the only time I've experienced anything being thrown.
All right, Gary, what about you, buddy?
I've had several rock throwing incidents. It's a classic primate behavior. Okay, if you've ever been to the zoo, chimps will take a dump in their hand and they will fling it at you. And they can get some distance too.
Accuracy?
Yeah, But I've had several. If you don't care, I'll tell the story. One of my favorites was,
Go ahead.
we was on a expedition in Spotsylvania County, Virginia. There was quite a few of us there. There was probably about 30 people there. And everybody says you're not going to have activity when you have that many people. And that's the biggest crock I've ever heard, because we had activity every time we were there. I mean, every time. And I'm talking about killer activity. But anyway, I carry stuff with me. I'm not a guy that goes out unprepared. So I've got some snacks and I've got water and things like that. Well, me and two other guys was sitting next to this kind of swampy area. And we were just sitting there chilling. And I was a little hungry. It was probably 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. So I pulled an apple out and I was eating this apple. And I got done eating that apple and I threw it over into the brush. It's an apple. I'm sure squirrels probably pick it up or something like that. And we probably sat there a few minutes and heard something thump. And I said, guys, something just threw something at us. And they're like, no. And I was like, yeah, I heard it hit. And they're like, really? And I was like, yeah. And I cut the light on. And it wasn't probably 2 or 3 feet in front of us was that apple core that I had just thrown into the bushes.
Oh, wow.
So he picked it up and threw it back at us.
How do you explain that?
Oh, a bear's not going to do it. You got to have a thumb to pick something up and throw it.
That's cool. That's the kind of shit I want to happen to me.
It's interesting. That place that we was at was phenomenal. Phenomenal.
All right, let's stick with you, Gary. Tree structures. What do you think about though? What's your overall opinion?
I kind of have mixed opinion of it. I think some of it is real. I think it is Sasquatch, Bigfoot, whatever you want to call it, behavior. And I think some of it is human related. Everybody goes into the woods and the first thing you holler, look, it's a stick structure. And you look at it and you're like, no, that's a tree that's blown down. Or they say, look how all these trees are bent in this one specific direction. And, you look at it and you kind of figure out, oh, that's from some type of storm, it's snow load or whatever. Not everything, that people say is necessarily. I'm not the person that goes out and hollers everything is Bigfoot.
Yeah.
If it's really intricate, I mean, if it's like woven and, or if you find several of them that leads to something, like you might follow 2 or 3 of them and find a footprint or something like that. Yeah, that's something solid. I'm all about following something solid. So I'm kind of mixed. If it looks funny, I'm out.
Yeah, and I think that's what we all have to do, Gary. We all have to eliminate every other possibility. If I've seen, there's been a couple times I've seen like these small trees, saplings, like bent over and like woven around, like woven through other trees, and then an arc, like made an arc out of it. The wind didn't do that. A storm did not do that. Something with hands did that. Okay, so you're down to something with hands. What has hands? We do. Bigfoot do. Can you roll out humans did it? No, you can't. But why? Why would a human do that? So I don't know. That's kind of where I stand with it. Billy, what do you think about structures?
Well, the only problem with structures now is that everybody that's looking for Bigfoot is looking for them. And every hoaxer out there probably thinks it's a good laugh to build one themselves.
There you go.
And that's the biggest problem now. It's one thing if you're seeing them. The ones that I always have a problem with is when you're walking down either a maintained trail or any trail that obviously has human traffic, and there, lo and behold, one, 10, 20 feet off the edge. That's likely not a Bigfoot that created something like that. But when you're deep back in the, way off the trail, And you find something that wasn't just some weather damage where the sticks fell in a certain fashion, but you got sticks going in all directions. You're able to tell that it's being held up by some type of means, whether it's something tied around it or whatever. And then you got to look at it a little bit closer. I know I've seen a lot of guys. They'll see, like, matter of fact, right here, not too far from the house, there's a trail, and a tree fell in such a fashion that when it fell between forks of two larger trees, and both ends fell off. It's just a big log like hanging up between these two trees, and and people look at that and go, "Oh, look, ain't there?" But you go out and you say, "Well, over here's part of it. Oh, here's the other part of it. It just fell there," and So you got to look for that kind of stuff. But I think there's a lot of people building them at this point. Kind of a joke or whatever.
Yeah, I agree. And the same way with like tree knocks and howls and stuff like that. I mean, how do you? I mean, you're probably not the only ones out in the woods, camping and stuff. And you do a tree knock, there might be some more Bigfooters half a mile away that are going to respond to it. And each of you are excited as hell, thinking that you're getting responses from Bigfoot, but just more drunk assholes.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's very true. I think that's very true in Salt Fork State Park in Ohio. Mm-hmm. I mean, that place has become so well known because of the Ohio Bigfoot Conference that everybody and their brother is up there looking for Bigfoot. So, I mean, you hear a wood knock out there, you might as well, it's somebody else out there doing it.
Yeah, I mean, that's very true. Very true. All right, guys. Main question, big question in the Bigfoot community. Y'all know there's no wrong answers because we just don't know. We'll start with Billy. What the hell is a Bigfoot?
In my opinion, it's either a primate, ape type creature that we just simply haven't discovered yet. I like a lot of Dr. Meldrum's theories. I think that's about as close as a person can probably get as to what we're actually dealing with. But I've also in the past have admitted that, can there be, I don't know. Here lately, I've heard the term feral human. I've been hearing that a lot. Okay, people, kind of going off the grid, so to speak, getting away from civilization, Now, does it explain why they're covered with hair? Probably not.
No.
But again, I lean more towards the primate theory.
So a flesh and blood creature.
Yep.
All right, Gary, what say you?
I'm a flesh and blood. It's a flesh and blood animal. It's either, like I said, a hominid or a hominin. It's either primate species or some type of relic primitive human, or maybe even some kind of combination of the two.
What about Neanderthal? Have you heard that?
I don't necessarily agree with Neanderthal. And I'll tell you, I study a lot of primitive humans. Neanderthals were actually short. Neanderthals were short, barrel-chested, and they did have a huge, wide nose. And the reasons that Neanderthal had a huge, wide nose and were short and really big was because it was adaptations for cold weather. So their nose was really wide, so as they breathed in, it actually warmed the air up before it hit their lungs. The reason that they were short is it's easier to warm up a body that is shorter than it is a tall body. They're, really robust. They were designed for that cold weather. And believe it or not, there's a lot of science out there that says that Neanderthals were actually bred out of existence. Everybody that has some type of European descent has a certain percentage of Neanderthal DNA.
Well, you look at Roger right here, Squatch and Holler. I have Neanderthal DNA.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he's kidding or not, but I mean, some people do.
The only people that don't have Neanderthal DNA are of African descent.
Okay, so yeah, I'm in agreement with both you guys. I've always been a flesh and blood guy. When I first started this, back in 2019, looking into this heavy, you could not convince me that this was nothing more than a North American primate that we just haven't caught up with yet. We just don't know enough about it, and that's what it is. For the longest, I was in the Gigantopithecus group. Still don't know what I think about it. But I say all this to say the thousands of people that I've talked to since I've been doing this, there's been some shit that just can't be explained. I've witnessed some shit that can't be explained. And in the community, we call that woo. And I don't mean to offend anybody. I mean, that's the term that we've given it. What do you guys, Gary, we'll stay with you. What do you think about the whole woo side of it? Is there any credibility there?
I'll give you my honest take on it. And a lot of people, I may upset some people, and I'm not trying to. I'm not going to take anything away from anybody's experience. If you tell me that you saw something that falls into the woo category, it phased out of existence. Okay, I'm not necessarily thinking that it really phased out of existence. I call it the Homer Simpson. Anybody that watches The Simpsons sees Homer fade back into that bush and disappear. Animals can do that. They're colored, they're camouflaged. It doesn't take much. Like I said, United States Marine, you can walk right by some people and never see them. So I think, a lot of what people call the woo might be something that somebody has seen, and in their mind, they're just trying to piece together what happened. And it is so fantastic that it comes out as something supernatural.
All right, Billy.
So the property that Gary was talking about earlier, Spotsylvania County, and he knows where I'm going. We've seen some stuff on that property, and if you go up there and research, it's a private piece of property we have access to. It's over 100 acres of property, and there's not a single night that will go by that you don't see lights, orbs floating in the air. We sat and watched for I forget how many minutes. Two lights that look like, you ever seen those things that some people have sitting on their desk where they hit the ball and the ball hits and the other ball like that? There were two orbs that just kept doing that, like bouncing off each other right in front of all of them. I mean, we're sitting there looking at it. I was walking in the woods on the back part of the property near a fence. Had two other guys following behind me. I'm walking in the front, and then I see this red light come right in front of me. I stop. Other guys hit me in the back because we were in the dark. And I'm like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, there's a red light that just floated right here in front of me." I thought it was somebody with one of those red LED lights on their headlamp, but there was nobody there. It was just a light. Even called base camp, see if anybody had moved from base camp. Everybody acknowledged. So, I mean, we see every time we go there, we see some strange lights, orbs, whatever you want to call them, but I am still convinced they're not Bigfoot related. I think that's something separate altogether.
Yep.
Yeah, because the orbs is something I just don't know what to make of. You hear them in relation with Bigfoot. I mean, some of the really, really out there claims are people that claim to see a Bigfoot like materialize from an orb. I'm not there yet, But I mean, I'm never going to call anybody a liar. But I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. I've seen like lights in the woods where there shouldn't be lights, and I can't really explain that. But something else, and I'm thinking about the exact same area. It's this place in North Georgia, Pigeon Mountain in Lafayette, Georgia. We've had so much weird crap. That's where I had my believed one sighting. Was on Pigeon Mountain. That's the place that I've seen the lights, the orbs where there should not be lights. And that's also the place where it's happened, I think, 3 different times now, where we've been on expedition, walking around at night, and we hear this metallic sound, something metal. And in my mind, you know how you hear something and it may be dark or your eyes are closed and an image pops in your head, like trying to rationalize what you're hearing. Each time I've heard these metallic sounds, I've had the image of like an old rusty swing set, like someone pushing a kid on an old swing set, that kind of metal sound. But we're in a WMA. There's no metal. Everything is wood. I mean, there's no cars around there. I mean, there's no reason there should be any kind of metal sound. And I've heard that so many times while I've been looking into this. Have you guys experienced that? Like a metal sound where there should not be metal? I mean, either one of you jump in.
I haven't experienced it, but if you listen to Ron Moorhead, they heard a metal sound quite a bit during the Sierra Sounds. And at one point, he had R. Scott Nelson up there with him, the cryptolinguist. And R. Scott Nelson thought he heard a cowbell. So yeah, there's some instances of it.
I've heard metal sounds. I always kind of try to dismiss them as maybe somebody every now and then, you know, back in some of these wildlife management areas, they'll have signs with metal poles. And I've always kind of thought to myself, yeah, you know, limb fell out and hit that sign but no, you're right. I have heard the metallic type sounds in the woods. Yeah.
All right, one last thing before we go to the questions, since we're kind of talking about the weirder side of Bigfoot, telepathy, mind speak. Have either of you experienced it, or the most interesting case you've heard of it? Gary, start with you.
I've never experienced it, but I listen to a lot of podcasts on Bigfoot. And Les Stroud on Sasquatch Chronicles put it out there that he had a mind speak incident
in the Smoky Mountains.
Yep. Actually, I don't think it was too far from Gatlinburg.
No, it wasn't.
So that's, you know, I don't know quite what to think of that. But Les Stroud said that it was not his voice. When you think something, and, you know, everybody does that when you having a conversation with yourself in your head.
Yep.
You always hear your voice. And he said specifically it was not his voice.
And that's what I've always asked, Gary, the people that have claimed to have that experience. I try to understand, because I do the same thing. When I go out in the woods, I'm in the mindset where what if they can do this? What if they can hear me? I don't necessarily believe it, but what if, you know? So I'm talking to them while I'm going out. I'm here to learn from you. Yes, I have a gun on me, but I'm not. It's not meant for you. It's for my protection. And just if you would allow me to see you, I would be grateful. And that's just a what if thing. But I've always wondered, these people that claim that they're communicating with something, is it their own voice that they're hearing, or is it the voice of someone else? Because that would rule it out right there. If it was a voice that was not yours, that you did not recognize, I think that would be a good way to rule it out. Now, Billy, same thing with you, buddy. The whole mind speak thing.
No, I've never had any thoughts enter my mind, no voices, nothing that I would call mind speak.
Okay.
And if I did, I would probably call it demonic.
Yeah.
There you go. There's always that. All right. Time has gotten away from me. We're almost an hour and a half in, but conversation's really good. A few questions. We're going to go ahead and get to those. Troy, does that mean you saw one in 2006? I guess he's talking about Gary there, and you went through your experience. So, yes.
Yes, 100% I saw it.
Okay. Alex is asking, what part of Virginia are y'all in?
I live in a small town called Clintwood. We're right next to Kentucky. We're close to West Virginia and Tennessee.
Okay.
And then I live in Rappahannock County in a place called Chester Gap, Virginia, which is right next to Shenandoah National Park.
I've heard a lot about Shenandoah. Is there a lot of activity in there?
There is. The locals don't like to, so you'll find that you're not seeing a lot of BFRO type reports, but they will talk to somebody local. So a lot of the sightings are going to a couple of people that have put out like cards and stuff at like the little markets or places like that, and they'll call somebody local.
Okay. Troy, how far away from you was the Bigfoot when you had your encounter? I'm assuming he's asking Gary, when you're roadside. How far away would you say it was?
3 feet.
Holy shit.
The length of the hood on a Jeep.
It was in front of you 3 feet away?
Yes.
How'd you not hit it?
I locked the brakes up.
He has good brakes.
I locked the brakes up. I actually saw it stand up and start across the road, and I thought, Jesus, there's some idiot trying to cross the road. And I jacked the brakes up. We slid right up to it.
Did it stop or did it keep going?
It kept walking. The look on its face, I got a pretty good look at its face. The look on its face was surprise. We were not supposed to be there. We were not supposed to be there.
Do they look more human-like? You hear people
Great
say,
question.
Well,
I couldn't shoot it. It was too human-looking.
The one I saw, I think, was more human-looking.
Really?
Almost more Native American-looking in the face.
Oh, wow.
Extremely huge. Extremely huge.
Damn, 3 feet away, you had to have gotten a good look.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, brief. It had to have been a brief look, but damn, 3 feet away.
It was pretty good.
What about the brow ridge?
I can't really say a lot about the brow ridge because it was dark. But the facial features that I can tell you about was its head was slightly conical, but it was really round, with just a little slight slant to it. Its nose was really wide.
Yeah, and Naomi's asking, did it have a hooded nose?
It's just like a human nose. Yes, it was a hooded nose with down-facing nostrils. But it was huge. And it was almost kind of flat. It didn't really protrude as much as a human nose.
Damn.
That's
what I want. Gary, you had the perfect sighting, man.
And I'll be honest with you, I'm glad I was in my Jeep because I did have some type of protection. At least I could have got out of there if I had to, or, hit it with the Jeep if I had to. I don't think I want to be out in the field hunting and have one walk up 3 feet from me.
Yeah.
It's intimidating. That's the best I can put on it. It's intimidating. It's huge.
Absolutely. Mr. Scott Trent, Billy, have you ran into a lot of hoaxers in your travels?
Yes, I have. And one of those
Give me a
hoaxers
kick in
was
the
one that
ass.
I probably spent a better part of 3 or 4 years of my research with. And let me tell you, you want something to make you sick to your stomach, that'll do it. There was one guy that I had been hanging out with. He used to be, I ain't gonna name any names. He was a BFRO investigator, and for 3 or 4 years he dragged us along in this wildlife management area over here, and one day he, the final straw. It was about 3 or 4 of us out. We were all sitting, and that's what we do. We'll sit in the woods in total darkness, no lights, and just listen and be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And we heard what sounded like something threw something. So we decided to pop the light on, look in that direction, and all of a sudden we're seeing what looks like eye shine from a distance of probably 50, 60 feet. So, we turn the lights off, we wait a few minutes, we turn it back on, we're still seeing it. I thought, well, let's walk towards it. And the particular guy was like, I don't know, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't, you don't know what that thing will do. I said, well, I mean, it's either going to run or it's going to, whatever. So as we're walking to it and we're getting closer and closer, I'd say I was within about 20 feet and I realized what I was looking at. I was looking at 2 tree reflectors. And those tree reflectors were not there. The many times we've been in that area, they had never been there. And so as we're walking back, we noticed he was acting a little funny. He was starting to pack his stuff up. I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, well, I think I'm going out of here. And it was right at that point that I realized that he had been staging stuff this whole time. And let me tell you something. This guy, this is the part that gets me the most. So I had back surgery I don't know, probably 6 months prior to that. And he brought me cookies to my house. I mean, when I was, healing up, just never expect something like that from somebody. And so when that happened, I mean, I just got totally sick that night. I was just, that feeling that you get sometimes. I don't know if y'all have ever had a job where you get sick to your stomach going to work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's kind of what it felt like. It's like you're disgusted. And that
Terrible
I
feeling.
hope nobody ever has to deal with that. That's just a horrible feeling.
Yeah, it really is. We dealt with a hoaxer in my organization, and I haven't talked to him in a long time, and I don't even know what I would say to him at this point. I don't want anything to do with him. He's a piece of shit. Everything that he has ever told me, I question now, and I just don't want anything to do with him. And I think they kind of get a feeling like when the gig's up, like, okay, my time's up here. And they kind of move on, because he has not tried to contact me either. Yeah, you're right, Billy. It's a bad feeling. It sucks. All right, before we get out of here, last question to you guys. We'll start with you, Billy. What's it going to take? What's it going to take to make this a recognized species by science?
It's going to take a body. Pictures ain't going to work anymore. Too much AI. Videos not going to work anymore. Too much AI, and they're getting better and better with AI. So
if pictures were going to work, Billy, if pictures or video was going to work, then Patty did it in 1967. Okay, it's not going to work.
Yep.
So you say a body.
body.
Agree with you 1,000%. Gary, what do you think?
I'm same camp. It's going to take a body. Science is not going to recognize anything that, they can't study. And I think that, that's what it's just going to take. I don't want to be the one that, has to shoot one.
Yeah.
Has to take one out. That's not really my thing. I think, you're dealing with probably one of the most endangered species on the planet. So,
in a perfect world, we come across one that's already dead, maybe a rogue that didn't belong to a group or a clan or whatever, and it just dies of natural causes or hit by a car or a semi or something like that. That would be best case. And in my opinion, it's probably already happened. And the government has it and knows about it, but they're just not talking about it. But I'm with you there. What do you think a piece of a body would work?
yeah,
Either
I
one
think
of
a
you?
piece of a body would work, but it's one of those deals. It's got to be, irrefutable. I don't think you can just bring in a piece of hair with a
Mm-mm.
little bit of meat on it. I don't think that'll work. I think it's going to have to be something like a head, an arm, a leg, something.
Yeah,
I
because
remember,
go ahead, Billy.
I remember Dr. Meldrum mentioning that ran across one. If you could get the head, get the head. If you can't get the whole head, get the lower jaw.
Mm-hmm.
The lower jaw. So yeah, obviously the head. Anything on the head is going to be the most important.
Yeah, we got to come up with a protocol. In my opinion, we talked about this on that Bigfoot podcast. As a community of Bigfoot researchers, we've shown that we're not going to get along. We're not going to be able to play well with each other, and that sucks. We all have the same goal, but there needs to at least be a protocol what to do, because if you come across this 9 foot tall body in the woods, it's going to weigh close to 1,000 pounds probably. You're not going to get that thing out of there. I mean, you're not going to be able to. And by the time you get out and get people to come back with you, is it going to be there? But and all that time. So taking a piece of it is going to have what it would have to suffice. And you would think the head would answer the most questions. You could study the brain, the teeth, just answer all kind of questions. But maybe a foot would be cool, if because they're called Bigfoot. If you could get a foot with you. But again, how many of us could stomach cutting the head off of a corpse? But I agree with you guys. It's going to take a body, or at the very least, a piece of a body. And then what happens when you bring that in? Does it disappear?
That's kind of one of the things that I've thought about quite a bit. If I was to run across a body, I'm taking multiple things. The head, a hand, a foot, something, whatever I can get out. But I'm taking more than one thing. And what I'm going to use for evidence will be sent to somebody, and then I'm having a backup somewhere that nobody knows where it's at. That way the government can't come in and say, okay, now we've got this.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably a good idea.
And it never hurts to have a backup for the backup for your backup.
I mean, they should have 10 fingers, right?
Yep.
There you go. All right. Before we get out of here, guys, Billy, start with you. Tell everybody where they can find you guys. Anything you're working on, anything you want to promote, anything like that. Just this is your opportunity to talk about it.
Well, you can find we have a new website, which is squatchradio.com. If you go to squatchradio.com, you can actually sign up on our email list, and that way you get alerts to the shows that are coming up, the ones that are uploaded. We have a Facebook page called Sasquatch Watch Radio. It's just facebook.com, Sasquatch Watch Radio. And then, of course, our YouTube channel, which is at Sasquatch Watch Radio. So pretty easy to find us, and feel free to, watch our shows, share them, just like they do for you guys, share the shows.
All right, Gary, you got anything, bud?
I'm on Facebook, Gary Kendrick. That's about it. I'm kind of primitive Pete. I don't do Twitter or any of that other stuff. X or whatever it is now.
All right. Yeah, I can't say enough about these guys. I mean, it was awesome. We're coming up on 2 hours now. We've been just talking with these guys. They're really, really interesting, a wealth of knowledge. They do a good job over on their channel. Please head over there. Take a second right now. Head over and give those guys a sub and help them to get bigger as well. Guys, I can't thank you enough. I appreciate y'all taking the time to come and hang out with us. This has been fun.
Appreciate it.
We appreciate it.
All right, Tiffany, got anything?
Yes. No, just thank you guys for devoting your 2 hours with us to share the knowledge that you have, because it takes shows like this and it takes folks like you to really speak to the masses.
Absolutely. All right, guys, y'all enjoy the rest of your evening, and we will talk soon. Thank you again.
Thank you all.
All right. Thanks. Good night.
All right.
Good
Bye,
night.
guys. How good was that?
It was a good show.
Seriously, almost 2 hours. We've been talking to those guys, and I mean, could have kept going.
It is so easy to do.
Yeah. I mean, that's how you know it was a good show, when the time flies. It doesn't seem like we've been talking for almost 2 hours.
Yeah.
Or I have been talking for 2 hours because we come
Yeah.
on early.
Yeah.
All
Yep.
right. Good
Yeah, I know.
stuff.
I'm going to go lay down because I sneezed during the show and I pulled a muscle in my back. That's how you know you're getting old.
Don't that suck?
I know.
All right. Again, thank you so much to the fellas tonight. Scott Trent, Gary, or Jonathan Pulley, and Troy for the super stickers that y'all sent us. It was awesome. Thank you guys so much. We love y'all. Yeah, all that cool regular stuff. You got anything else, ma'am? Are you ready to go?
Nope. We are good to go. Just thank y'all so much for everything and for always coming and showing your support and your love for us. It means a lot.
It really does. Awesome questions, respectful to our guests as always. We love y'all. We thank you. Until we talk to y'all again, y'all take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Bye.